Okay, imagine this feeling for a second. You're really pushing hard, right? Chasing that next big thing, maybe a promotion, landing a huge client, maybe even getting some kind of award. You're putting in the hours, working late, making sacrifices, a bit like Malene, this architect we read about. Super ambitious.
Right, I remember her story.
Yeah, she poured everything into her career, dreaming of seeing her name on these big projects. But here's the thing, even with all that success, she felt really deeply unhappy.
Yeah, that's the paradox, isn't it?
Totally. Her relationships got strained. The actual joy of the work just kind of vanished. It was replaced by this constant, heavy burden of stress. Like she was sprinting, but getting absolutely nowhere.
And that story, it's something we hear variations of all the time, this pervasive sense of aimlessness, this unhappiness simmering underneath. It often, it boils down to this fundamental disconnect.
The disconnect. How so?
We end up chasing all these external things, these markers of success, but we haven't checked if they actually line up with what truly matters to us deep down. We set goals, sure, ambitious ones even, but if they're not rooted in our own beliefs, our principles, we end up feeling empty, dissatisfied, just kind of lost.
Which is exactly why today we're doing this deep dive. The topic is, find your personal values. Live a life aligned with what truly matters to you. And this isn't just fluff, right? It's not just about feeling a bit better.
Not at all. It's really about understanding that knowing and living by your personal values is honestly the most direct route. It's the shortcut to a life that feels meaningful, satisfying, and genuinely happy in a way that actually lasts.
Okay, so what can people expect from this deep dive then?
Well, we're going to unpack what personal values actually are, why they're so incredibly vital for your well-being, and, crucially, how you can start identifying your own core values.
Practical stuff too.
Absolutely. We'll get into practical steps for aligning your day-to-day life, your decisions with those values. And we'll even touch on, what to do when values clash, because that definitely happens.
Okay, great. So we've mentioned the impact, but let's back up a bit. When we talk about values, what do we actually mean? Because I think a lot of people immediately jump to thinking about goals.
That's a super common confusion, getting that promotion, buying the house. Those feel important, right? But the material we looked at draws a really critical distinction.
Okay.
Personal values are more fundamental. They're the underlying beliefs, the principles that guide how you make decisions, how you act. They shape your sense of purpose. Think of them like your internal compass.
An inner compass. I like that. Always pointing towards what you hold dear.
Exactly. And here's where it differs from goals. Values, they involve ongoing action. They're like a direction you're heading. Say you want to head west. You never actually arrive at west, right? You're always moving towards it.
Ah, okay. So it's a continuous thing.
Precisely. Goals, on the other hand, are the specific milestones along that path. Reaching a certain river, climbing a particular mountain while you're heading west. You can achieve a goal. You can tick it off the list.
But you live a value.
You're constantly living a value. It's how you travel.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So wanting to be a loving partner, that's a value because it's constant effort, ongoing action.
Yeah.
But getting married, that's a goal. It's an event.
Exactly. Or applying yourself fully at work, bringing your best effort consistently, that's a value.
Whereas getting a better job title.
That's a goal, a great goal maybe. But it's achievable, it's finite, the value is the way you work.
Got it. And you mentioned they're personal.
Hugely personal. This is maybe the most liberating part. They're unique to you. There's no right or wrong set of values to have. You don't need to borrow them from anyone else. Your values are yours. That's where their power lies. They reflect who you genuinely are and how you want to live.
Okay, this next bit really caught my eye because it's not just about feelings. It connects to our brains.
Oh, absolutely.
The sources we looked at mentioned this, frankly, staggering statistic.
Yeah.
People are 60% more likely to be happy and satisfied when they live by their core values. 60%. That's huge.
It is huge. And it's not just a psychological boost. There's real neuroscience behind it. When your actions line up with what you truly value, your brain's reward system, dopamine pathways, it literally lights up.
Ah, the dopamine hit.
Exactly. Your brain is essentially saying, yes, this is good, do more of this. It reinforces the effort and contributes directly to that feeling of purpose and satisfaction.
And the flip side, when you're not aligned,
Well, that reward system is much less engaged. That's when you get those feelings of frustration, emptiness, like something's just,
It's
it's
up.
almost like a biological signal telling you something's not quite right.
So it's not just in your head, your brain is actually reacting.
Yeah.
And beyond the brain chemistry, what about the broader psychological benefit?
Oh, they're immense. Our sources consistently point to higher overall well-being, greater life satisfaction. Plus, and this is big, significantly less internal conflict, stress, and anxiety.
Less stress and anxiety. How does that work?
Well, they even mention studies where just doing brief values affirmation exercises, like literally just writing about your core values for maybe 10, 15 minutes, can measurably lower stress responses. Like it lowers cortisol levels.
Wow, that's simple.
It sounds simple, but it's powerful. It also builds resilience. When you're grounded in your principles, you're just better equipped to handle challenges, to persevere.
And that leads to authentic happiness. Is that the term they use?
Exactly. Authentic happiness. It's that deeper, more enduring sense of fulfillment that isn't just tied to, whether you got the raise this week or if everything's going perfectly. It's more stable. And your values act like that compass again, helping you prioritize, cut through conflicting demands. They give you the clarity to say no to things that just don't fit.
Which brings us back to Malin, the architect. Her story is such a clear example of the cost of misalignment, right?
Definitely. Despite all the external success, she was miserable. Chasing those career milestones at the expense of everything else led her to a life that felt totally hollow.
Yeah, relationships suffered, her creativity dried up, the joy was gone.
And what she was experiencing psychologically is often called cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance. Okay, what is that exactly?
It's that uncomfortable mental state you get into when your actions clash with your beliefs or attitudes. You believe one thing, but you're doing another. That conflict creates discomfort, anxiety, stress, that nagging sense of unease. Malin's burnout, her stress, her dissatisfaction, it was a direct result of that dissonance. Her whole system was telling her this isn't right.
So how did she turn it around? What was the catalyst?
She essentially hit rock bottom, and then a mentor asked her a really simple but incredibly profound question. What do you truly value?
Just that. What do you value?
Just that. It forced her to stop running, to actually reflect on what mattered beyond the job titles and the recognition she'd been chasing. And she realized her core values weren't just about achievement. They were things like creativity, connection with people, making a meaningful contribution.
So a different set of drivers emerged.
Completely. And armed with that clarity, she started making changes. She began saying no to projects that felt draining or misaligned. She actively looked for opportunities where she could be creative, where she could feel like she was making a difference. And she started deliberately investing time in her relationships again.
And the result?
The result was transformative. Her motivation came flooding back, her energy returned, work became joyful again, purposeful. Her overall life satisfaction shot up. It wasn't about quitting her career, it was about reshaping it, realigning it so it became an expression of her actual values.
Okay, so that's a powerful story. If someone listening feels a bit like Malin, how do they start? How do you actually uncover your own core values?
It really starts with some deep self-reflection. You have to carve out some quiet time. Ask yourself some honest questions. What's really most important to me? When have I felt genuinely happy or proud? What qualities do I truly admire in other people? What kind of rules do I want to live my own life by?
Thinking about big moments too.
Yeah, reflecting on defining moments in your life can be revealing. Even thinking about, what kind of legacy you'd want to leave behind. What would you want people to say about you?
That's deep. Is there a practical way to capture this stuff?
Journaling is fantastic for this. Just writing down thoughts, feelings, experiences related to those questions. Over time, patterns start to emerge. You'll see recurring themes, words, or phrases that really resonate, that give you that spark of inspiration or fulfillment.
And then there are more structured exercises too, right?
Right.
Like the bullseye.
Yes. The bullseye exercise is great. You basically divide your life into, say, 4 key areas, maybe work, education, relationships, personal growth, health, and leisure. Then for each quadrant, you brainstorm your values related to that area. How do you want to be in your relationships? What qualities do you want to embody in your work? Again, the emphasis is always, these are your values, not society's, not your parents, not your bosses, yours.
That bullseye sounds really useful, but I imagine it could feel almost too simple. Or maybe harder than it sounds when you actually sit down to do it.
It can be surprisingly challenging. We're often not used to thinking this explicitly about what matters. Life gets busy, noisy. For those who want maybe a quicker starting point, there's also something called the fast values exercise.
Fast values.
Yeah, you find a list of common values. You can easily find these online, and you just quickly, like in 2 minutes, tick off the ones that immediately jump out at you. Don't overthink it. Then take that smaller list and try to rank them. Gut reaction is key here.
Okay, so you have this list, maybe from journaling or one of these exercises. What's next? Just frame it.
Not quite yet. The next step is crucial. The authenticity check. Look at the values you've listed. Now, honestly, reflect on your life recently, your actions, your behaviors, your decisions, how you actually spent your time last week, last month.
Oh, this is where it might get uncomfortable.
It absolutely can. You might say connection is a top value, but then realize your calendar has 0 time blocked out for friends or family. Or maybe health is on your list, but your habits don't reflect that at all.
So what does that mean, that the value isn't real?
Not necessarily. It means there's a gap between your stated value and your lived value. And seeing that gap isn't failure. It's actually incredibly valuable information. It shows you where the opportunity lies, where aligning your actions could bring more satisfaction. You just ask why. Why is there a gap?
Okay. And what about asking other people? You said values are personal, but can others help?
Yes, but carefully. You can ask people you trust, a partner, a close friend, a mentor, for their perspective. But phrase it specifically. I've identified creativity as a core value. Based on what you've seen of my actions recently, where do you see that showing up? Or where does it seem missing? Ask for concrete examples.
So it's like getting external data, a reality check.
Exactly. Think of it as a fit filter. But remember, their input is just data for you. You get to decide whether it resonates, whether you accept it or discard it. Ultimately, it's still your compass.
Okay, makes sense. Then the final step in uncovering them.
Prioritize and commit. That long list needs to be narrowed down. Aim for maybe 3 to 7 core values, the ones that feel absolutely essential to who you are, and then you commit. You make a conscious decision to live these out in your work, at home, in your community. That commitment is what turns them from nice ideas into active guiding principles.
Right. So identifying them is step one, a big step one. But then comes the living them part, which sounds like where the real work begins.
That's where the transformation happens, absolutely. Knowing your values is powerful, but integrating them is where you see the change.
So how do we do that?
Yeah.
How do we bridge that gap we might have found in the authenticity check?
It starts with setting aligned goals. Look at your core values. Now, create a vision for your life based on those values. Then set goals that move you towards that vision. And use tools like the SMART criteria to make those goals effective.
SMART. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound.
Right, exactly. Make sure the relevant part specifically links back to your core values. Break big goals down into smaller, manageable steps. Review them regularly. And don't underestimate accountability. Sharing your goals with someone you trust can make a huge difference.
Okay, aligned goals. What else?
Evaluate your current lifestyle. Where are the obvious clashes between your actions and your values? Gently explore why those clashes exist. Is it external pressure? Societal expectations, just old habits you haven't questioned?
And then, big sweeping changes.
Not necessarily. Prioritize. Start with small incremental changes. Maybe it's dedicating 30 minutes a week to that value of connection, or finding one small way to bring creativity into your workday. Small steps add up and feel less overwhelming.
Mindful decision-making sounds important here too.
Crucial. Before making choices, big or small, just pause. Ask yourself, how does this align with my values? Consider the consequences for you and for others. For really big decisions, seeking input, like we discussed, can be helpful. And practices like meditation or just regular journaling can really heighten that self-awareness muscle.
And what happens when you mess up?
Yeah.
Because, life happens. You'll inevitably act against a value sometimes.
That's such an important point. Setbacks will happen. This is where self-compassion comes in. It is so easy to beat yourself up when you slip, isn't it?
Oh yeah, the guilt trip.
Right, but that's counterproductive. Values are a compass, not a rigid rule book you get punished for breaking. Sometimes you hit fog, like you said, or get blown off course. The key is self-compassion. Practice self-forgiveness. Learn from the mistake. Why did it happen? What could you do differently next time? And definitely celebrate the progress you do make, however small it feels.
So it's an ongoing process of checking in.
Absolutely. Schedule time for it, even if it's just once a month or quarterly. Review your values. Do they still feel right? Review your goals. Are they still aligned? Adapt as needed. You evolve. Your values might subtly shift, and that's okay.
And if you're really struggling to make progress,
Don't be afraid to seek support. Seriously. A therapist, a life coach, a mentor, even just a supportive group of friends or a community focused on growth, they can offer invaluable insights, different perspectives, and that crucial accountability. You don't have to figure this all out in isolation.
Okay, one last area, value conflicts. Because our values don't exist in a vacuum, right? We interact with people who have different ones.
Exactly. And when deeply held values clash, things can get really heated. Compromise can feel almost impossible, like you're betraying yourself if you concede on something you consider sacred.
Yeah, that feeling of, I can't budge on this.
Right. But the sources pointed out something interesting. Sometimes values that feel sacred might actually be pseudo-sacred.
Pseudo-sacred,
Meaning they feel non-negotiable, but under certain conditions, there might be some flexibility, especially if the underlying spirit of the value can still be honored, maybe just in a different way.
Can you give an example?
Sure. The one they offered was about, say, selling your late parents' possessions. You might feel adamantly opposed. It feels like betraying their memory, a sacred value.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
But perhaps you could agree to the sale if your share of the money goes to a charity they deeply cared about. See, the core value of honoring your parents is still met, just through a different action. It allows for movement where there seemed to be none.
That's clever. What else helps in these conflicts?
Offering symbolic concessions can be surprisingly powerful. This means making a difficult but meaningful concession on one of your own related values. It signals to the other party that you're willing to sacrifice something too, that you're genuinely seeking a resolution, not just trying to win or buy them off. People respond much better when they see mutual effort.
So it shows good faith.
Precisely. And another subtle but effective technique is to actively affirm the other person's positive qualities, even amidst the disagreement.
How does that help?
Acknowledging things like their trustworthiness, their strong principles, their commitment. Even if you disagree with the specific principle, it can lower their defenses. It reduces the feeling that compromising on this issue means they are somehow a bad or unprincipled person. It buffers against that identity threat, making them potentially more open to finding common ground.
So you're saying, I respect you and your conviction, even if we see this particular issue differently.
Exactly that. It separates the person from the problem.
Wow, okay. Lots to think about there. So wrapping up this whole journey of living by your values is pretty profound.
It really is. It's fundamentally about being truly you. Aligning your choices, big and small, with what genuinely matters in your heart and soul. That's the path to real authenticity, purpose, and that deep, lasting fulfillment we talked about.
And it's definitely a journey, not a destination, not a one-time fix.
Not at all. It's dynamic. It requires ongoing self-discovery, checking in, making adjustments, and recommitting. Your values might even evolve as you learn and grow, and that's perfectly normal, perfectly healthy. The goal is that continuous alignment.
So in a world that's often, obsessed with external stuff, superficial wins, we wanted to leave everyone listening with a final thought to chew on.
Yeah, a little provocation. Ask yourself this. What's one single, maybe even small action you could take this week? An action driven purely by one of your core values that would bring you just one step closer to living the life you truly desire.
Just one small step. We're really excited for you. For anyone listening who's embarking on this or maybe continuing this journey of self-discovery and alignment, it's powerful stuff.
Absolutely. Keep exploring, keep aligning.
Until next time, keep diving deep.